guys, I'm back with another Nightmare Falls reaction video. This is going to be 4 chilling, true scary horror stories that will keep you up at night by Nightmare Falls. About 15.5 minutes long, so not too shabby. Yeah. Just like get my blanket, even though I'm actually kind of hot right now. I don't know why the fuck I need a blanket. I'm so weird. Like I'll be hot, so I'll have a fan, but then I'm cold, so I have this on instead of turning off the fan. Like a normal person, I have a blanket. So I'm still hot, but then the fans are blowing me, so I'm still like, you know, I don't know. I'm not normal, but it's okay. None of us are really normal, so that's okay. So yeah, good thing I'm not watching this at nighttime. It's like, what time is it? 7:15 about, so not too bad. Alright. I think I'm comfy. Are you guys comfy? Let's do this. Let's do this.
I started having horrible nightmares. I would wake up in the middle of the night and hear the sound of a faint laughter or a whisper. At first,
I'm out. Chilling true stories. And earlier today I watched the Call of Duty story, so I'm actually really pumped for this one too. This one ought to be really good too.
When I was 12 years old, we lived in a really old house.
Okay.
It was at least 200 years old, and there were rumors that it was haunted.
200 years old.
One night, as I was lying in bed, my mother came into my room. At least I thought it was my mother. The room was dark and the only light was coming from the hallway. Instead of saying goodnight, she started to tell me a weird and disturbing story about how a demon once came to a 12-year-old girl. She said the demon came at night, crawled up next to the girl and began growling in her left ear. She told me that the girl said a prayer over and over, and the demon eventually went away. I remember just laying there, looking at her, wondering why she was telling me this story.
Yeah, it's kind of random.
Especially right before I went to sleep.
Thanks,
She was really
Mom.
freaking me out, honestly. Eventually, she finished the story and got up, and she left without saying anything more.
Like, thanks,
I lay
Mom,
there
you're
in the
bad.
darkness, trying to figure out why my mom would say those things. I tried to get it out of my mind and concentrated on getting comfortable and falling asleep. I heard the noise in my left ear. I couldn't tell if the sound was human or animal. It was a growling sound that left me terrified. I was too afraid to move. I was too afraid to breathe.
Thanks a lot,
I was
Mom.
paralyzed by fear. I wanted to scream, but I was afraid of what might have happened. At that moment, I thought I would pray and started reciting it in my head. I was too terrified to say anything aloud. The growling continued for what felt like an eternity. Then suddenly it stopped. I lay there listening for any other sounds, but all I could hear was an eerie silence. I was awake all night until the sun came up. The next morning, I asked my mother about the story she told me. She claimed she knew nothing about it. She said she had never come into my room the previous night.
Oh, hell no.
What she said had scared me even more than the growling itself. She said, that wasn't me. Why would I tell you such a horrible story? Why would I scare you like that before bedtime? To this day, I still cannot come up with an explanation. I believe that whoever or whatever it was that came into my room that night, it was not my mother.
Well, she said it's not.
It was her doppelganger or a protective spirit disguised as her, trying to warn me of what was about to happen, trying to tell me how to save myself from a possible demon that was about to come for me.
That's...
Or whoever it was. Thank you.
Wow. By the way, a house on full volume just because like he's really quiet. So I'm just gonna mute this for now, just because like I'm just gonna wait till it goes to story 2. Because like I have a full volume, but then like the sound effects is so loud and everything else is so quiet. So okay, here's.
When I was 7 years old, I started having intense nightmares. I would wake up every night drenched in sweat with my heart beating fast.
Oh shit.
Most of the time, I could never remember the dreams or what had scared me so much. I only remember one nightmare, but it seemed to be recurring over and over. In the dream, I found myself standing in a deep pit at the bottom of a muddy hill. My family were perched at the top of the hill, looking down at me. Their eyes were black and hollow looking. When I would look down, I could see the mud beneath my feet boiling and bubbling. Then something began crawling out of the mud. I tried to scream, but nothing would come up. I tried to climb up the hill, but I kept losing my grip and slipping and sliding back down into the pit. Eventually, I felt my body go very stiff and I was unable to move. My breathing stopped. I felt like I had died. That's when I would wake up. I couldn't move my arms
Watch
or
it,
legs.
dudes.
It felt like someone was holding me down. It was dark and I couldn't hear anything. Just a deep silence. Then I heard the breathing. It wasn't my breathing, it was deep, wheezing, guttural sounds. I've never heard anything like this before. As I lay there in my bed, my body frozen and unable to move, I saw something lurking in the darkness that horrified me. I can only describe it as a demon. It was a small, hairy figure with wide, evil eyes that glowed red as it stared at me. It was grinning at me with a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. It knew I was awake. That grotesque face will be burned in my head until I die. I closed my eyes and began screaming. I couldn't move a muscle. All I could do was scream. All of a sudden, my mother burst into my room, and when she flicked the switch to turn the lights on, the light bulb exploded. When I opened my eyes, there was nothing there. The demon was gone. My mom asked me what was wrong. I told her what I had seen. I spent a few months sleeping in her room until I felt safe enough to go back into my room. Even today, whenever I think about this incident, I still get chills. And I have to take a minute to compose myself.
Yeah, stop
I
being the
honestly
thing.
don't know what that was.
Stop it. Sorry, put on mute again. So I don't usually have nightmares. Like I do have nightmares sometimes. Like I'll have like a nightmare, I'll be scared and stuff and nervous. But like I'm never like totally going nuts or anything like that. Like I'm never totally going like ape shit or anything like that. It's just kind of like a little bit nervous and that's basically it.
I grew up in a very strict religious household. As I got older, I began to struggle with my faith in God. When I was a teenager, I became fascinated with the occult. I came to the conclusion that the best way to prove to myself that God existed was to see if demons existed. I began collecting books about witchcraft and demonology. Looking back now, I realized how foolish I was. I didn't understand what I was getting myself into. I began reading these books and actively trying to invite demons into my life. I would read
That's
passages from the books out loud, reciting long strings of demonic names.
That's
I would
smart.
draw satanic symbols on the walls and floor of my bedroom, trying to cast and summoning spells.
What is wrong with you?
The demons didn't come to me all of a sudden. They came gradually, insidiously working their way into my life. I hardly noticed it was happening until it was already too late. I started having horrible nightmares. I would wake up in the middle of the night and hear the sound of a faint laughter or a whisper. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. Then things started getting more intense. Sometimes, I would wake up paralyzed. Sometimes, I would feel my bed moving. Sometimes, I would find all my sheets lying on the floor, sticky. My personality began to change. I was tired all the time. I became angry and irritable. I was distant and withdrawn. My family started to notice all these changes in me, and my parents brought me to a psychologist, but he couldn't find anything wrong with me. So late one night, I was awoken by the full moon shining on my face. I felt very strange, as if the world was somehow disjointed, and I was disconnected from it. I felt like I was floating in a vacuum. That's when I looked down and realized that my body was floating above my bed. All of a sudden, I felt something grab me by my feet and start violently shaking me like a rag doll. I was being whipped back and forth. I saw one side of the room and then the other flash right before my eyes. I was terrified and something was trying to kill me or tear me away from this world. Eventually, whatever it was stopped shaking me, and I felt myself being pressed up against the ceiling as it was trying to crush me. Then suddenly, I was slammed down on the bed. I felt something heavy on my chest pressing down on me. It was as if some invisible weight was pushing me down, and it was getting heavier and heavier. I was paralyzed and couldn't catch my breath. I remember thinking that this is just a dream. There's no way any of this is actually happening. Then I heard a sound I would never forget as long as I live. I heard the sound of the bed creaking. I was sinking into the bed, and the sound of the bed warping under the increasing weight was real. This was really happening. In a frenzy of fear, I burst out of the bed and ran out of my room. Went to my mom's room and woke her up. I was wide-eyed with fear and hyperventilating. She eventually calmed me down and began asking questions. I told her what had happened, but she laughed it off and told me I could stay with her for the night.
Laughed it off.
The next morning, I knew what I had to do. I went back to my room and gathered up all the occult books and materials. Then I took them outside, dumped them in the metal garbage can, and burned them. I cleaned all the symbols off my bedroom walls, and I never slept in that room again. Nothing like that ever happened to me again. I think whatever demonic force it was had their one chance, but they failed. And it never bothered me again. So do I believe in God now? I'm still not too sure. But I do know that there are malicious, evil entities in this world, and if you invite them in, they'll gladly come.
I mean, it's your fault for kind of doing it in the first place. Like, I'm not gonna say, oh my god, I feel so bad. Like, it was kind of your doing anyway, so it's kind of you asked for it. Like, you basically, yeah, you literally asked for it, so it's not like I can be like, oh my god, are you, you know, all that stuff. So this last story is gonna be about 4.5 minutes long, so yeah.
One evening, I was looking for an internet cafe because I needed to send a few emails.
Okay.
I spotted one in an old building. The sign said it was on the 6th floor. When I walked through the entrance, there was a dark hallway that led to a small elevator.
Sus.
I pressed the call button, and when the doors opened, I stepped inside.
Okay.
In a lot of Asian countries, many buildings do not have a 4th floor. The number 4 is considered bad luck because the word 4 sounds almost the same as the word for death. When it stopped and the doors
For
opened,
death?
I was
Does that
about to
sound
step
awesome?
out when I realized that something was wrong. The hallway was in total darkness. By the light emanting from the elevator, I could make out a random piece of furniture covered with white cloth. It looked like it hadn't been touched in years. I thought I might have gotten off on the wrong floor, so I checked the buttons, but none of them were lit up. There was nothing to indicate which floor I was on. Just then, I noticed something moving at the end of the darkened hallway. I couldn't quite make out what it was, but it looked like a person dressed in some type of gown. The figure was moving slowly down the hallway towards the elevator.
Of course it was.
It creeped me out, and in a panic, I started pressing the closed door button. All of a sudden, the light in the elevator flickered and turned off. I was plunged into the pitch darkness. I was so freaked out I almost wet myself. Just as I was about to lose it completely, the lights flickered back on.
Okay.
The doors closed. The elevator jolted back to life and began to ascend again. I breathed a sigh of relief. When the doors opened this time, I was at the internet cafe. I went over to the counter and told the girl who worked there and what had happened. As she listened, her face grew pale. She said that some of the customers and a few of her co-workers had experienced the same thing. She had never experienced anything herself, but she told me about the history of the building. Apparently, the 4th floor had been a hair salon at one time. It was prospering and doing pretty good until one of the women who worked there killed herself in the salon. Nobody knew the reason why. The salon continued to operate, but they were plagued by weird and inexplainable events. Sometimes when customers were having their hair washed, the water would turn as red as blood. Other people claimed that when they looked in the mirror, they would catch glimpses of a ghostly figure standing behind them.
And that's her.
When they turned around, there would be no one there. Because of these events, the salon developed a bad reputation and began to lose customers. Eventually, they were forced to close down. The building's owner tried to rent the 4th floor out to other businesses, but when they found out what had happened, nobody would take it. Finally, the owner reduced the price to nearly nothing, and it was rented by a businessman who planned to open a stationery supply store. However, when they tried to do some renovations on the floor, there was a series of mysterious accidents. The workman's tools would sometimes disappear, only to be found in strange places. A large mirror suddenly shattered when nobody was near it, and the workman had his hand crushed when the elevator closed unexpectedly.
Oh shit.
Eventually, the workmen were so spooked that they refused to continue. The building's owner gave up trying to rent the fourth floor out and just shut it down. He had the buttons in the elevator replaced, and it was reprogrammed that nobody could go on the fourth floor. At least that's what's supposed to happen. For some reason, when people took the elevator, it would sometimes stop on the fourth floor, and when the doors opened, some people would see a figure coming toward them in the darkness. I honestly still don't know what that was.
The ghost. Well, can you imagine that? Just someone like commits suicide. Someone commits suicide and then it eventually causes the whole business to be shut down, the whole floor to be shut down, and like programs to not even go on that floor anymore. That's crazy. Like that's crazy. Like again, like with ghosts, I don't know if I believe in ghosts really. I'm just gonna mute that or turn off that. So again, I don't know if I believe in ghosts. Not gonna work because I don't want anything happening to me, of course. But like I don't know. I always never really thought that they existed. I was always kind of like, you know. I mean, they definitely kind of exist for sure, but I always just kind of been like skeptical and kind of like, no, they can't be real, that sort of thing, you know. I don't know, it's just hard for me to like believe it really, so I honestly don't know, but that's just how I've always like, that's always been my take on it, so like that's how I've always kind of been. So I don't know if you guys have any explanations for that, feel free to give them to me. If you guys have any explanations. I mean, of course, that was just the ghost of probably the girl that killed herself. I think it was an employee, right? Yeah. That's definitely scary though, like just to like, you know, how will that happen after someone commits suicide? That's scary. Like I remember, I was sleeping in a house where somebody died. I don't want to say who, just out of like privacy reasons, but I was sleeping in a house where someone died, and I was literally sleeping in the house when they died too. Nothing happened or anything, but I was always kind of like looking around, kind of like expecting some ghostly stuff to happen. Nothing did happen, but I was kind of like, was nervous, kind of like, oh, is something gonna happen, or you know, like, what's gonna happen? Anything gonna happen? Nothing happened. And my friend also claims that like he's never seen it himself, but apparently his family tells him there's like a room in his house or in his grandma's house that's haunted and stuff like that. So, and like stuff happens, like the door will open like and close like 3 times by itself, and it's like, and the door's right there by the way. So I'd be like, the fuck, like I'd be going ape shit. And like even the one about the mirror thing, like when you look in the mirror and then like you see someone behind you and you look and no one's there, and then you look at them and then they're in the mirror, I'd be going ape shit. Oh my goodness. Again, like I feel like most of these stories are fake in a way, but I don't know for sure, of course. But I don't know. That's just my take on it. So I don't know how real it is or how fake it is, or you know how like whatever. But to me, it's just kind of hard for me to believe, just because I guess how I am and stuff like that. But I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe too.